Hi, thank you for tuning in to Behind the Scenes at Michael Chang's and Dick Lee's Beauty World 2015. This is the first of the three-part series. My name is Jeffrey, the host for this series. Today, we've got two designers with us, Wong Chee, the set designer, and the lighting designer, Shao. Hi, guys.
Hi.
So, we are going to get to know you a little before we talk about your involvement in Beauty World 2015. Yeah. So let's begin with Chee. Have you always been involved in the theatre, Chee?
Um, Actually, no. I was involved uh, only helping out with drama box in the early days. But that was basically backstage, like doing their publicity design and front of house. So set design didn't come into picture until only about in the late 90s, like I think 1999. That was when Halo asked me to help him to do a simple set design for a small presentation. That's it. Yes.
So what did you study when you were in school?
I studied graphic design. So actually my training was diploma in graphic design rather than set design or technical arts. Yes.
Okay, but you've got the basic skills and how to use the various design programs.
You can kind of say that.
Okay, let's go quickly to Shawan. Hi, Shawan. When did
Hi.
you when did you get involved in the theatre? Or how were you involved?
I got involved when I was undergrad at NUS. I got into lighting design quite accidentally. When I was an undergrad, everybody wanted to dance for Zaini. And as you know, Zaini is also the choreographer for Beauty World 2015. So I've known Zaini a long time. So basically, it kind of happened, like I said, it kind of happened very accidentally. I didn't make the cut for the dance team. And Zaini knew I was terribly disappointed because all my friends got in and I didn't. So he said, would you like to help the lighting designer? And for the show. And that's kind of how it started. And it kind of like snowballed from there. And after that, I did some lighting operation work for various companies. And then eventually I got to do my own design work.
Great. And it's wonderful because it sounds like both of you have got different experience in the theatre that help you get to where you are. Yeah. So what is your approach? When you are invited to design for a play or a musical, what are your creative processes? Maybe we'll begin with Chee first.
For me, it always starts with reading the script, and then also knowing about the background. For example, whether it's the era of the play or the musical, or what approach we are going in terms of the presentation style. So we'll start from there. Then normally when it comes to more like historical base or stories that's based on like a particular era, then we have to start to do quite a bit of visual research for house life and buildings and even clothings and other stuff that's related to the era. Yes.
And what about lighting, Shawan? What's your process?
I think I have a different process because it depends on the team. It's a very collaborative process, obviously, and I think for this show, I'm very grateful for the fact that I worked with Chee for many years, so we have a very comfortable working relationship. And I'm also very familiar with Beauty World, the musical, because I happened to be, the lighting operator for it in 1992. When it was lit by Kalyani Kausikan. So in a way, it was not new. It was not a new work to me. So it was kind of revisiting and kind of a homage as well, because I really wanted Kalyani to see the work and be proud of what I've achieved. What Chee did was he tweaked it a little bit, and for example, in the second last scene, which takes place in the back alley, that was not originally written into the book. So it was nice that Chee created a different location for it.
So let's get back to Chee on the set, because that's the first thing people see when they walk into the theatre. Can you remember 5 years ago, or maybe a little longer, what was your research process? What did you think about, or how did you, what were your inspirations for 2015 Beauty World?
for 2015 Beauty World, actually before we started, we had kind of a meeting not just with Dick but Michael Chang as well.
Yeah.
So we did from the beginning of it to decide that we want to stage a more not so glamorous Beauty World, like more real and a bit more sneezy in that sense. So in terms of the feel of space, it might be a little bit run down, but it's closer to like the bars or the night or the clubs in the 1950s, yes, rather than a clean up, polished look of cabaret instead. Yes.
So what were your visual references? Were there any old buildings that you looked at to inspire the look for the cabaret?
Okay, for the 2015 version, actually the inspiration comes a lot from where I used to grow up, which is Chinatown. So actually where I used to live, just across the road is basically Majestic Theatre and this old hotel. I think it's called Southern Hotel, which happens to have a cabaret called Southern Cabaret in the earlier years. So and as I was growing up as a kid, I mean during my time, the cabaret days has kind of gone, but the place is still a club when I was, I think, in my primary school. So there was a lot of happenings in the night. When we come to Beauty World, when I start to do research and then I look back at Southern Hotel, that's when I dig out a lot of not just visual reference but stories of the cabaret. And so I refer back to quite a lot, like Southern Hotel, which I look on the architectural part of it, and as well as the old maybe not Bugis area, but basically the whole stretch from Chinatown to Bugis, where there's this all stretch of shop houses and signboard. During that point of time, there's all this signboard which is made of neon light, which is above the rooftop. So I look for architectural reference and pictures from National Archives of Singapore, for example, and then that's how I draw my inspiration from. And at the same time, well, other than exterior, of course, I look under interior part of it. So there's reference to things like how the interior will look like, and then that inspiration was actually kind of drawn from a Chinese restaurant club, which I happens to like. I think it's called a main restaurant or something. It's no longer in existence, but the entrance of the restaurant is literally a moon gate. Yes.
Oh, the archway, right?
Yes. Yes, it's a round shape like a full moon. So it's called a moon gate. Yes.
Okay, a moon gate.
Yes.
Okay. And I remember watching 2015 when I walked into the theatre. I thought like, wow, you had dragons on the pillars. Can you talk a little about the dragons? You know, that was something I thought, wow.
Okay, the dragons pillars inspiration is literally back to the Southern Cabaret. Because when they're about to tear down the building after that building is being sold to another company to convert for other usages. So there was a report on the interior of this Southern Hotel and whatever was inside. So that was when I saw photos of the interior of the cabaret. They actually have dragon pillars inside it. But yes, and it's literally quite fabulous because the body of the dragon pillar is actually, the scales of the dragon is actually made out of pieces of mirror.
Wow.
Yes.
Hell to light the dragons.
Okay, that is in the original architecture. So of course for the stage version we had a much quick fix to it. So what we did was we actually used a large sequin fabric to replace the mirror. Yes, but at the same time, because of that, we can actually tone down the refractive of the material.
So maybe Shao, you want to talk a little bit about lighting the cabaret? How do you bring the cabaret alive?
Okay, I think when Chee shared with us his idea and the inspiration for the dragon pillars, I got very excited because it meant that there was something that I could use as to light up the dragons, obviously, and it also gave us a sense of space. And because you can see when you walked in, it was a very enclosed kind of box set with 3 walls. So there was a challenge of that as well. All right, but there's a line in the song, "House of Mystery and Wonder," beauty world, and really that was my inspiration. That I wanted to create a world of a cabaret that was sexy, that was seductive, that was mysterious, and it had to be very much rooted in a Singapore notion of what a cabaret and a nightclub was. So there are a lot of reds, pinks, and then with accents of blue and green to kind of show form and texture.
And did you all have to readapt the design because you were presenting at the newly renovated Victoria Theatre, right? So were there any changes to your, did the space constrict or liberate the design?
Actually, the space kind of restricted the design a little bit because it's a much smaller stage from the previous old Victoria Theatre. The new Victoria Theatre is smaller. And actually, we do not have a lot of backstage space in the wings. And for this version, they also want the band to be part of the cabaret world. So we have to fix I think a 9-piece band up on stage.
So they're not in the orchestra pit.
They are not in the orchestra pit. So they become they are literally like the old cabaret world where you have a live band. There, a small stage for the singers to perform, and then
it was all live music. It wasn't like pretend playing music.
No. It's not any -1 or anything. Everything is played live with a conductor to react to any change in the situation, for example. So we literally have to create a small stage on the VT stage for the beauty world. So it's a lot more closer to a real life club in that sense, because in a real club you don't actually have like a huge lots of space in terms of a stage, and it's always like kind of cramped because you need to give space for the dance floor for the clients to mix with all the girls and what's not. So we literally have to cram a lot of things onto the VT stage, but at the same time we still need to provide suggestion of the cabaret world which is inside, and then also the world which is outside, because there's also other parts in the script that mention other locations that is not part of beauty world.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's talk about inside outside, because let's hear Shawan's challenge. Creating a stage on a stage, and then you had dancing, you had the real world, and then the musical numbers. What was your approach to make the musical numbers different from,
Well, one of the things that was quite challenging. Well, not really challenging, but it was a little bit of a frustration sometimes. Was the fact that we had this curtain that concealed the orchestra, and then sometimes the orchestra will be revealed, and sometimes the orchestra will be hidden. And then I spent a lot of time like, is the curtain open? Is the curtain closed? The curtain opens? Is the curtain closed? So it was like, are we lighting the orchestra now? So there was a lot of these things that we had to coordinate with the stage manager for this, because there was this we wanted to have the orchestra on stage. That was a conscious decision. But it was also a challenge because we also didn't want them to be seen all the time as well. So there was a kind of a mock curtain that kind of hid the orchestra from view,
and did
at
you
all
have
times.
did you have to bring in like additional lights and all that for the venue?
Well, they were hidden underneath the second level of the set, so we didn't have to bring in additional lighting, obviously. But it just meant that we every time we opened the curtain, we needed to enhance the lighting a little bit more so that they would look like they were part of the world of the cabaret.
Okay. So let's move on to, you guys were talking about indoors and outdoors, right? How did you make that distinction for the audience? What in your design elements, Chee, that would help the audience know that it's the outdoors and not indoors?
Okay, for me, the approach is actually more like layers and levels, especially in terms of the set for beauty world.
Yeah.
So we when we plan the space out, as when what space is a cabaret, what space can be a co-share space, which is can be a world of cabaret, but at the same time, it's also other location. So basically, the set when we are basically split into I think 2.5 levels. So we have the stage level, which is a cabaret world, and which
Yeah.
also is for other venues like a tailor shop, or the backstage of the of beauty world. Then we have the a second level, which is serve almost like a transitional space or corridor of the or balcony of the beauty world cabaret. And then the outside world is actually the 2.5 level, which basically is the rooftop outside cabaret world with the signboard of the cabaret beauty world. And then the other part of it is double up as a space for to suggest the exterior world that we have a facade of cross section of shop houses. But when we review it, it was actually a hotel room in another location. Yes.
Okay, don't give the secret away yet. Let's talk about the tailor shop because that's quite a crucial location, right? Because Ivy meets Rosemary, the tailor at High Street. So I want to talk a little bit about the design. How do you capture that time and period and location, right, for this quite important character?
Okay, for the tailor shop, if it once you if reference to some of the slides, actually, I did research of the signboard of that period, and the other thing is also because of the location I grew up in Chinatown, there was this street that used to be whole street of tailor. I think that street is called Temple Street, if I remember correctly. So that's basically all the at that point time more on like the men's will go there to make their suits, or students will make their school uniform and it's in tailor pants and whatnot. So from there I get the feel for the signboard for Elizabeth Taylor, and it's the same thing because the whole stretch at the point of time from all the way from Bugis to Chinatown is basically whole area of shop houses which have like tailor shops, or for ladies I think it's called dressmaking companies or something, because at that point of time there's not so much of like bought off the rack clothes, but more of make to measure. Yeah, so basically the reference was for Elizabeth Taylor. First of all, we have to suggest the exterior of the shop house, the location of it. So that was a cross section of the exterior with Elizabeth Taylor signboard on the first touch of the building. And then when Ivy enters the shop, then we have to show the interior, which is of course another layer to reveal when it comes to that scene.
And was that on a wagon rolled in, or was
Yes,
it?
it was on a okay. For Elizabeth Taylor, is a mix of both. It's a wagon that rolls in, and then the shop house for such is actually thrown in.
Wow.
So yes.
And yeah, so maybe Shawan, you share some secrets about lighting outdoor and the indoor space.
Well, for Elizabeth Taylor, I took the cue from Chiwai, for the color scheme of the tailor shop itself. But for me, it was a more emotional response because when Ivy leaves Batu Pahat, it's the first place she goes to in Singapore, and she goes there to find her friend. So I wanted the color scheme to reflect the warmth, and the friendship that Rosemary represented to her, and so there were a lot of apricot, there were a lot of peach, there's some golds in the color scheme, and these represented friendship, love, a kind of a refuge for her in this big bad city that she has come to.
And talking about color scheme, what's your relationship with the costumes? Which came first, the costumes or the lighting, or how does it work, or the sets? How did you all?
Well, I think we all worked relatively independently because we all of us had a different brief from Dick, I guess, on what he wanted. So I think I didn't really have to talk much with Jerome, who because I have a great trust in Jerome, obviously, and a lot of the color schemes Jerome also used I think he also used the base set design as his look as well. So in a way we played off each other, and then we reacted when we were in technical rehearsals, and to see if this costume didn't look so good, we would just make adjustments to the lighting to make it look even better.
Yeah. So I remember there was a very moving scene. I think it was a song where there were two bits, right? They were singing. There was one in the tailor shop, if I remember correctly, and then there was one at the rooftop. To show like different spaces, but sort of stories intermingling. Can you all talk a little bit about that in terms of a set design and the lighting design?
Okay, for that particular scene, it's much clearer that you see the layers and levels, because the tailor shop is actually like the first layer, which is a lot more downstage, and then at the far back you get the background of the cross section of shop houses and the rooftop of Beauty World. So during that point of time, rooftop is actually almost like a multi-purpose space where all these commercial signboard will be pitched up there. But at the same time, it's also where people maybe try to get out for rest, or basically it's where people hang out all their laundries to dry. Yes. Yeah. So
more sense of the word, airing their dirty laundry.
Yes, and it also can be a place where people gossip and not get anybody cheering on them. It's that kind of thing. Yes. So to complement the rooftop, the reference is back to the shophouse architecture again, where we have the rooftop, and of course, not normal access to the rooftop is always the spiral fire escape staircase, which is part and architecture of shophouses. Yes.
Did you all build an actual spiral staircase?
Yes, we built an actual spiral staircase just for but basically as a suggestion, so that the feel of the rows of shophouses is much clearer. Yes.
Okay. And was
my response to the two levels is basically it represents different times, different spaces, and it can represent parallel storylines that are going on at the same time. When there's a 4-story going on within the cabaret, there can also be a sense of people's lives happening outside of the cabaret. So for me, the two levels also represented that sense of a world outside of this cabaret, outside of Beauty World. People carrying on with their lives on a day-to-day basis. And also, I think for me, the rooftop also represented, in terms of the color scheme, as a place of innocence and a place of love. There was obviously the obvious signpostings of time of day, like day and night, but it also, for lighting the roof, it was particularly special because it was also, in terms of, for me, was creating a sense of innocence, because that is where it was on the rooftop that Ivy discovers Ahok's love for her, and this is where she kind of almost falls in love with this bad boy in the city. So we wanted to capture that innocence of her first love as well.
This is with Ahok, is that right?
Yes.
Yes, Ahok.
So talking about Ahok, the back lane, the back alley. You want to talk a little bit about that, because it was quite realistic. It's almost like a film set.
It's not exactly a film set, but of course this is part of the whole experience in terms of the world of that period, whether it's Beauty World, and the back alley is also where a lot of things actually happen. I mean, in present days, back alleys are actually dead and quiet, but during that point of the era, back alleys is where sometimes a lot of advertisement is being stayed on the walls, and then there might even be those what we call like makeshift store owners selling things in the back alley.
And so the detailing and research can be seen in the set, yeah? I
Yes,
saw some posters and advertisements.
So we have like walls that the walls are peeling. We have we actually research or and then reproduce the advertisement from that period. So you can see posters of like green spot orange juice. You can see posters of X brand medicated oil and other items that was basically from that period. Yes.
And was the in terms of the lighting, was it a challenge to how do you create
Well, it
a
wasn't a challenge. I mean, I was excited by it because, like I mentioned, the back alley was not a location in the original book. So when Chee created this additional space for us, it meant that we were able to bring the audience to a completely different place. And for me, the addition of the posters and also the special painting that was done for the back alley really gave it. That's a very authentic look of a very aged wall, a wall facade, and so that was what I was very excited about. In my mind, I imagined the back alley as this kind of very dimly lit, kind of Geylang type alley, but overgrown with shrubbery, so that shafts of light can still cut through, and what I remember was, Jerome gave us this wonderful cheongsam that Ivy wore. It was bright orange, and it really made Ivy pop in every scene. Even though in all the back alley scenes, the lighting was at a very low intensity because of the color. It was so rich. Ivy was front and center at all times, and that just nobody could take their eyes off her.
and just looking back because it is 5 years ago, right? And if you had a chance to redesign or to relight the show, what would you do differently? Maybe we start with Shawan first. Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say it would be. I wouldn't say there's anything I would do differently. I would say that it depends on with each show or with each staging that there's always different things that come into the equation. And I think for this show, what I loved was the fact that there was a great amount of trust that Dick placed in us to create, to play, to experiment, and then if we didn't like an idea, we could toss it out, and he gave us that freedom to do it, and that was what I liked because Dick was always there. He didn't impose any kind of vision on us. And it was basically him. He just let us do it, and he just let us go wild with it, basically. And so I'm really proud of it. Looking at the pictures now, and I'm looking forward to seeing the live screening as well.
Okay. And Chee, is there anything you would do differently or you do more of?
I guess not very different in that sense. Just maybe one or two scenes like that I might do a bit of tweak, but basically, in the 2015 version, I quite like all the space that we have created. Looking at the pictures now again, it kind of like, I don't know, it feels romanticizing that era in a sense. Yes. Yeah.
But I mean, if I recall you saying earlier that you were careful that you wanted it more real, so in a way not too much nostalgia as well, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so in case our friends who are out there watching this and thinking, oh, that sounds so interesting, what you guys are doing, right? And if they are thinking about being a lighting designer or a set designer, what are some advice you would give our friends who are watching this? If they think like, oh, what makes a good lighting designer? So we'll start with Shawan first.
Design. I think I think it's about being a good collaborator and being a good listener.
Yep.
And being able to convey a story with the lighting. I think that is the most important thing. The lighting supports the set. The lighting supports the costumes.
Yeah.
The lighting supports the music.
Thank you. And Chee?
I would agree with quite a lot of what Shao has said, because ultimately it's still a teamwork. So but for set design, I think one thing is that other than the set look aesthetically beautiful, planning of the space or the flow of the cast is very important. So as a good set designer, I think the first thing when you approach it is look at the space and how things will flow through the script. Yes, and of course be interested with anything and everything, because in set basically you have to have a little bit of knowledge of almost everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So having done so many different sets, and working on Beauty World and other productions, what's one takeaway for you, Chiwai? If there's one thing, if your friends ask you, why you are still designing set? Why do you do it? Well, what is that thing that keeps you going?
Well, for me, it's always there's certain things that's very magical about creating worlds. I mean, all these worlds that you okay, maybe I'm not sure, but it's kind of like you create this imaginary world, but yet so real for just a short period of time. So for that, it's almost like a kind of addiction.
Bringing to life your imagination. Yeah, that kind of
Yes.
experience. And what keeps you going, Sean?
I do agree with Chiwai. It's really about having a kind of a shorter attention span, because you do a great amount of work in a very intense and a very brief period. And in Singapore, we're oftentimes accused of being crazy because we try and put out musicals in 3 days or 4 days. And I think we're the only country in the world that manages to do this as well, So I guess it is the adrenaline of 4 days of very little sleep, very little eating very little, sleeping very little, and just working incredibly hard just to get something up and going for the audience on opening night. And it's that magic that happens, when everything comes together.
Thank you, Chiwai and Shawan, for sharing your insights, reflections, and passion. We'd like to acknowledge our supporters, National Arts Council, SISTIC, Academy of Rock, and the Singapore Street Festival. This program is a part of SG Culture. Appreciation shout out to Brendan Wong for the sound and video, Agnes Tay of ATMC for PR services, and Wei Chun for the virtual backdrop. Thank you for joining us, and this is your host, Jeffrey Tan, signing off. See you at the next Behind the Scenes at Michael Chang's and Dick Lee's Beauty World 2015, Episode 2. Bye!
Bye.